Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to Let's Chat on Sunday. I am thrilled today. I've been getting emails actually about this wonderful guest since I put up the information, but I wanted to introduce you to Ann Tucker. Ann is a channel for information and healing from the angelic realm, helping awakening souls to take advantage of this time of rapid growth and ascension. That is absolutely for sure. It is a time of rapid growth for sure. As a trance channel, Anne enters into a meditative state where she allows angels to speak directly through her. Their practical, poetic, and inspiring messages she brings through offer angelic guidance and healing frequencies that will help to prepare us to usher us through this planetary shift in consciousness. She shares these messages weekly on her popular YouTube channel to over 18,000 subscribers. So welcome, Anne. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. It is so fun to be here with you. It's I think that you and I definitely share some things in common, and it's just fun to be able to enjoy that together. So we were just talking a moment ago about that our relationship with our daughters, and anyways, it's fun, definitely fun. Looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. I'm so excited, and we were also talking about the fact that I think this interview, the timing of it is perfect. I think there's a lot happening in our world. I think there's a lot of confusion, a lot of fear, and I'm hoping to alleviate that today. We talk a lot about resisting fear on this channel because there is a lot of fear out there, and I think it's important to kind of remind us often that it's choice, and we don't have to choose to move into that energy of fear. So hopefully that can help with that as well today. But I'd like to start, if you wouldn't mind, kind of talking about your background and kind of your own spiritual journey at the beginning. If you can kind of just take us through that a little bit and get us so that people can kind of get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that I wasn't born in any particular religion. My parents divorced very young. I had two step parents. So I had kind of four separate parents. Each one had a different religion. So there was no expectation of me in terms of, like, I really didn't have a lot of religious exposure. My dad was interested in astrology, and he was interested in palm reading before I was born. But there was something about it that he shut it off. I think he didn't like people coming to him and showing them their palms and like asking so he kind of shut it all down. But at least the doorway was open enough for me to be aware there was something more out there. I felt this incredible draw. I think the first time I found anything, because nothing was available back then. There was nobody talked about meditation. There was no internet. But I read a book, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar by Roald Dahl. And it's all about a guy who trains himself to see without his eyes. And I was so fascinated that I read it a billion times. And it's all about like meditating. You stare into the center of a candle. And it's the same guy who wrote James and the Giant Peach, right? And Charlie and the Chocolate Factory wrote this book. And I would sit there and look, and like I went to the bathroom and I lit a candle and I'm trying to look in the center of the candle. But there was no instructions in the book. It didn't say you were supposed to do it for 20 years. It was like, I did it for 2 minutes. And it didn't work for me. But I was like 8 or whatever. So I always knew I was drawn to it, but I just didn't have any access to it. And my heart was very, very closed off from my childhood conditioning. And so I would say, even though I knew deep down, like there was this feeling that I would have called it psychic, that I had the psychic feelings and thoughts and things that would happen. And I can remember back now and remember having conversations with my guides. I remember specifically like sitting in bed and talking to them, but not thinking anything of it, like thinking it was just like, but I remember there was two sides of the conversation. Like when I run back now, I'm like, oh yeah, there was somebody talking to me. That wasn't just me talking to myself. But I just, when you're a kid, you just think, you don't question it. So, but it wasn't until, so I would say that I closed my heart and it wasn't until I went through a very, like an out of the blue, all of a sudden, here's your giant wake up call, divorce. that I was put on my path very rapidly. And then almost, I started having all kinds of psychic phenomenon happen after that as it just unfolded. And it just got faster and faster and faster. And I was at the time, when things started really unfolding for me. I was working as an executive coach, so I had I was very conventional, right? I had a regular job working in big companies, working with important people who were not at all open to this stuff, who were not at all receptive. And so when I decided that, wow, this is just too amazing, too compelling, I cannot resist the pull of it, it was a one-way ticket. It was like, okay, if I go down this path, there's no coming back. And I took the plunge, and I decided I was going to travel around and go places where I could be inspired and figure it out. And I took like every channeling course I could think of. And I went to, all the different, places. I went, Peru and A-Fest and all the things. I did all the stuff that I could, everything I could find, I did. and, and then I became a full-time healer, and I started out clairvoyant channeling and, channeling in one way. And it took several more years before the trance channeling came in. I had to raise my frequency up before the trance channeling could come in.
Wow. What an, I mean, there's a lot there.
I know. It's like 20 seconds or less. Boom, there it is. Yeah.
Wow. So it's kind of sounds like, you had an immediate kind of pull to channeling, even though you kind of, there was a definite path to all of this, and kind of in and out of different modalities and different things that you were experiencing. And like you said, kind of, I guess it was it was kind of the whole process of raising your vibration, right? Even though, it probably didn't appear that way, but you were definitely leading to something. And
Yeah.
so how did the actual trans channeling come to be? What was the process like? What happened to you as far as the messages, how you were starting to be drawn in or invited into this path?
I did not understand what was happening at first. It was after I was well on my path, like I said, working full time as a healer. At the time, I would channel, and the early gifts, the way they came in, it was always like out of the blue, random things would happen, and I would have to figure it out and try to understand how to work with it. There was not a course that I could take that was like, do this process. As a matter of fact, when I tried to take a course, I would get very clear messages: stop taking that course. That they didn't want me to get trained out of the modality that I was supposed to be using. So I had, it was very interesting. I had one dream. I was taking a class on medical intuition. And then I had a dream standing in front of a gate, which is like your doorway to expressing your career or your work in the world. And there was a horse head, which is about healing, with two electric eels crossed over one another in front of the horse head. Like, stop doing the course. Stop doing what you're doing. The healing course. Stop it. Yeah.
Okay.
Fascinating, right? But, and the main reason, like I said, is because I needed to figure it out on my own. There wasn't, it was a different way that I was meant to learn my own way. But I was working full time doing this modality, which was, I was using clairvoyance, clairsentience, and claircognizance. So I would kind of move into a person's body. I would feel my guides would come in through my back. I would feel the densities or what was going on. I could feel, if they had surgeries, I could feel it as if it was inside my own body. And then I would help to release it. And it was fabulous because I could feel the energy release. I would know when it was healed because I could literally feel the release inside of myself. And I would have instant knowings that would come in. I could say, oh, this is from that time when your grandma said these words, and it would just hit me like boom, boom, boom. So I thought, wow, I'm here. I'm done it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then, like usual in my life, every 2 years, when I think I finally get something down, I know how to do it. They're like, great, you're done. Let's move on. And I was out, I was out meditating in my usual spot. I had this great spot on the love seat out on the patio, and I closed my eyes, and then all of a sudden, it was like my guides were trying to sit on me, and I felt intense pressure on my forehead and on my chest, and it was so hard, it was so visceral that I literally could barely breathe. It was like imagine a 200-pound person sitting right here. And it was like that. It was so heavy. I could bear, and it's happening. And I'm recognizing like, this is a real thing. And I'm trusting, like, this is my guides, but I'm like asking them, why aren't you coming? They always came in through the back to do healing. I'm like, come on in. Like, what's the deal? Why are you guys doing, like, why are you sitting on me? And I couldn't figure it out. And of course, no answers. And this literally went on for about 6 months, where the minute I would close my eyes, I would even get close to closing my eyes and boom. And it, I mean, and it would, and I just kept breathing through it, thinking at some point I will figure this out. Something will happen and I will know what's going on. But
Right.
6 months, the minute I closed my eyes to meditate, boom, they were there. And so about 6 months in, it finally dawns on me that they were not trying to come in, they were trying to pull me up. And that was the experience. Like, imagine being in a rocket ship, the G forces of leaving the planet, leaving the Earth's gravity, it presses, it's heavy, right? It presses against you. So as they were trying to shift my frequency up high enough to get me to a place where I could connect with them, that felt like weight to me. It felt like heaviness, because it's like the force of being lifted up off of the frequency that I'm in. And so as soon
Got
as
it.
that, yeah, as soon as that
Yeah.
dawned on me, then all I had to do was I kind of opened my crown and I sort of visioned myself going up, and it was like zoop, like up a super fast elevator. And all of a sudden I'm up and I'm seeing, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I figured it out. I'm so excited, you know, and I'm looking around and I see, I'm like in the space and I see all these, you know, angelic looking guides around. Of course, they're wearing like white robes and just exactly what I would expect. So, but they're standing around and they're smiling and everybody's so happy to see me. And they're standing there and I'm like, yeah, great. Let's do it. What are we doing? And nobody says anything, right? They just stand there and look at me. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And that went on for 6 months, where the minute I would connect, I would zoop, I would go up and I would be with them and they'd be smiling and looking at me and nobody would say anything. And I was experimenting. I'd go up and I'd be like, okay, can you write something? Can I imagine there's a chalkboard and you write me a message? Like, what am I supposed to do? You know, like what's next? I don't get it. And nothing, like literally crickets. And you can imagine it was very frustrating.
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and so finally, after about 6 months, and during that time, I had had dreams that indicated that I was meant to be trans channeling, that I had had other indications that I was meant to be trans channeling, but I just didn't know how to do it. I'm like, look, I'm going up. I'm up there. Like, what's the next step?
Right.
I don't get it. And so after about 6 months, I finally just said, well, what the heck? I'm just going to sit down in my chair and I'm going to try to connect, but I'm going to put a pen to paper. And I just said, okay, if this is going to work, I don't believe it. I don't believe it's going to happen, because I was very skeptical. I'm like, you guys just give me one word at a time so that I know for sure it's not coming from me. So I sat down and I connected, but enough in my body still so that I could write. And I wrote, and what it felt like was like there was a pipe over here going up and the word would come down. And I would get a word and I'd be like, oh, that's okay. I'll write that word down. What was that? And I just kept going, word, word, word. And what was hilarious is if I stopped, if there was a word coming in, I'm like, I don't think that's the word. And then they would just stick it in the pipe like it was constipated. It would just be stuck there until I wrote it down. Right. So I just kept going and going. And I got, like half a page. I'm like, okay, enough. This didn't make any sense. That was total gobbledygook. And then I sat up and I read it and it blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. That not only did it make sense, but it was profound. And so that was kind of the beginning. And then I used to do it like that, where I would do it right where they would send me words one at a time. And I kind of gradually let it speed up a little bit, but I was just very cautious because I was having, like I said, a hard time accepting it. And then at a certain point, they told me that they were going to work on my throat chakra. And so right after that, for 4 months, I lost my voice. And I was trying to teach a business class at the time. It was a spiritual business class. I was trying to teach and I could only talk for about 20 minutes and then my voice was gone. And that went on for 4 months straight. And they were changing my vocal cords, working on my vocal cords so that I could transmit angelic frequencies. And so it was amazing. Yeah. So anyway, so that went on for 4 months. And then after that, all of a sudden I'm good to go. And then I get the message that and then it was just one thing after another. It was like they were conditioning me, preparing me. It was a continual process of pushing me, helping me to raise my vibration, putting me in and pushing me out of my comfort zone, constantly trying to force me to stay on my path, right? Pushing me out of the things that felt, every time I thought like I got comfortable, every time I thought I had something figured out, it would be like, great. And now you're moving, now you're changing, now you're doing something new, and pushing me to try to get me to a space where, and I love to think that, wow, this is it. I'm here. This is what I'm meant to be doing. But I know better at this point. I know that I'm just going through another one of those big changes where I had to give up the program that was really my main program, the thing that provided my main income, they told me to stop doing it. So, and they never tell me what's coming next. They just say, stop doing that. So I stop. I tell everybody, I'm sorry, I'm not renewing. This is the last one. We're stopping after this. I have no idea where my income's coming from. And then boom, here's your new thing. Here, you're going to stretch and do this new form of healing. You're growing. You're going to be doing it. Like it's, yeah. But there's a lag, that lag period. You just have to allow and be in flow and be like, okay, I'll just let it unfold.
Wow. And so everybody, let me go back just a little bit because I have so many questions, and I can't just it's just like, what? So going back to when you're having these pressures on your chest and you're just trying to meditate. You're just trying to, raise your vibration and feel good. And what advice do you have for people? Because that reminds me of so many times when you're going through your spiritual practice and you hit a wall of some kind. Yeah. And it feels like you can't break through the wall. You can't break through the wall. Either you get to a point where, okay, I always get to this point, and now is this it? Is this, where do I go from here? So how did you know just to keep going, or what did you tell yourself to keep trying and keep trying? Because 6 months is a long time to go in and have this, you know what I mean? Have the same thing happen. So how did you break through that wall and just what did you tell yourself?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. I love that question because you're right. It is. And I think it is. So early on I met a friend of mine who and she was a healer. I was a healer. We did a trade of sessions, and she has this very playful spirit. Like when I look at her, I thought she had 2 children, but she told me, no, those are her guides. She has these 2 children that I could see them prominently, and they were right up here. I'm like, you have 2 children coming in. And she's like, no, those are my guides. And so she has this very childlike spirit, and her whole way of doing the session was play. It was like, just play and have fun and try this and try that. And it was stretching for me. I was like, oh, wow, that's such a great perspective. And then I kind of held on to that so like when I first had this happen where I went up, I was like, okay, you just experiment. And so my whole healing practice was like that, where every single session was different. I would go in and I would be like, okay, here's what I see. What if I do it this way? What if I turn this way? So it's like this constant experimentation. And what it does is it opens you up, and you get immediate feedback. You feel if it's working or not. You're like, oh, I'm trying this. Okay, that's not. And you have to be willing to be wrong, to try things and have it. And I'm very honest. Like at the time when I was doing that modality, I would be honest, be like, I tried that didn't work. Let's try it this way. Let's do this new thing and try this. And so you're working in an interaction, in a dialogue with the energy and with spirit. And so to me, it makes it so much more interesting and fun, because nothing is static. Nothing's ever the same. You always leave room for growth and for change, because you're approaching every situation as if it's never happened before. And so that's kind of been my whole attitude about how I use my gifts, is like every time I look at a client or look at someone's energy, and I don't do one-on-one sessions anymore, but when I did, and now when I work with groups, it's always that concept that I'm looking at it as if I've never seen it before, and it's brand new. And okay, and I try to bring all the creativity I can muster. So that is really how, as I would say, if you get to a place in your meditation where you feel stuck, could go to the place where you feel stuck and look at it and try to put on your problem solving hat and just play and say, well, what if I did this? What if I tried mudras? What if I tried that out and see what that did? What if I tried a walking meditation instead of a sitting meditation? And think of yourself as like an experimenter, like a science, like you're the Ben Franklin of your spirituality. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Just try and be fearless is what I say. You have nothing to lose. Be fearless and just don't worry about doing it wrong, or don't worry about like how soon or how long, or just, the whole thing is it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be a conversation between you, your gifts, your spirit, your guides, your higher self. And that's meant to be a process of discovery.
And I'm so glad you said that, because it isn't, I think we complicate things, right? We overcomplicate things, right? Mm-hmm. And because it is supposed to be joyful. And I think when you're in those places of joy, your vibration is high. It's like, it's very simple. It's not like people are like, how do I know if my vibration's high? Well, I always think if you feel good and you feel light and you feel joyful, your vibration's high. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. We feel it. Our body is the best indicator of, like, if you're feeling light, absolutely. There's where your frequency is. Yeah, totally.
And I just have to say that our community is like this. Craig is like, talk about trusting spirit. Wow, and it is like it is, and Gina is like, that is faith, and I think that's right. It really is that kind of, like you said, just kind of moving into it and really trusting,
Yeah.
but also not giving up. There's
Yeah.
a partnership, right? Where you have to keep trying. You can't just say, well, just let me know then. You really have to keep knocking on that door. And
Yeah.
why do you think that is? Is it to make sure we're ready, to make sure we really want this?
Do you know, I think, like, why is it that mine took me so long to figure out? Like, there is that, um, and I think everybody's journey is different. Not everybody has, like, some people do find a modality that they can be trained in that then puts them on their path. And then they learn 5 other modalities and they combine them all into their own unique thing. You know what I mean? And that's awesome. And that's definitely a path for some people. I think for me, it's like how I'm built is I like puzzles like that. I like problem solving. To me, it made it so that it was mine, so that I could invest my heart into it because it became something I figured out. And so, like, it's engaging to me. I think they knew me, like they know me very well, and they know how to kind of play me like a piano. Like, she's gonna like this a whole lot more if we make it kind of hard. They have to figure it out. So I think it's that, like in the same way, they knew that I was skeptical. So they, like, okay, I'll tell you something so hilarious. When I was first channeling, like starting to go up and channel, and I was having these experiences, and I was going to these channeling workshops, and I was having a really hard time believing if what I was getting was true or not. And especially because sometimes what you channel is not confirmable. You'll be like, oh, I had a past life. And how do you know if that's true or not? So, um, so, uh, so there was this period where I was with a friend doing channeling, and I was in Canada with her, and she basically opened her home, and I went, and we were doing this thing where we'd channel all day together, and I would go in, and I would tell her what I was seeing, and she would go in and tell me what she was seeing. So when the one that I was in, when I was up and I was relating to her, and I said, okay, I'm up, and I see, like, I just got into that room with all the angels and everything like that. And then I see Yeshua come up, and he's got this plan, this scroll that looks like building plans. And he says, I've got the plan. And I was like, oh my gosh, how exciting. Like, I'm going to see the plan. Like, wow, this is finally, right? Finally, they're going to show me something. And there's this huge round stone table, and he takes the plan and he stretches it out, and all the other angels and people come around, and they're looking, and I can barely get through to see the plan. I'm trying to look around their heads, and I see it, and it looks like a risk board. It looks like the game of Risk, where it's like you see the map of the world, but all of the oceans were blue and the continents were all the same color. They were all pale yellow, and there was a single red flower where France is, like right where France would be. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like what? Like, what is, I'm looking around, like, does anybody else get this? You know what I mean? Like, what does this mean? And then he rolls it back up and he walks away, and everybody leaves. And I'm like, wait, like, I didn't get it. Like, come back. I didn't get the plan. Like, what is it? And so then wait, and then the meditation goes on from there, and it's, all this other stuff and blah, blah, and past lives and stuff like that. And so I'm in Canada. My son had asked me, he said, will you please get me this one? My son's a total foodie. He says, will you please bring me back as a present? I want this one particular brand of Canadian cookies. And I'd been like 3 stores looking for these darn things and had not found them anywhere. So we were out trying to go get these cookies. And we're driving, and my friend, she slams the brakes on, and there, right on the side of the road, is a huge hand-painted bulletin board that was exactly the risk board, exactly. Like, it was, probably 10 by 10, and it was exactly what he had shown me, what Yeshua had shown me, with the, the blue water and the white continents and the red flag. Because I described it to her when I was in, and she's like, that's it, that's your meditation. So we stop, and directly across the street is a giant grocery store, and painted in huge letters on the side of the grocery store is home of the blah, blah, blah cookies.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a plan to help me get the cookies. So, it's just, and it's hilarious, which Yeshua is actually very, very funny. But the point is that they were teaching me to trust what I got in my meditation. So that happened to me for a good year, that every time I would meditate, they would start with some scene that I would then go out into the world later and I would see it. It would be like, here's a thing. Now, this is your reference point. You're channeling because you're going to see this later. And now we can talk to you. Now we can show you what's happening. And so it was a game they played with me. And it was because they knew that I was having a hard time believing it. And then it grew, and that helped to strengthen my connection. So, yeah.
I love that. And when you have your connections, when you were having where you would see the angels around, and you had Jesus come up and be part of the plan, give you the plan. And when you have that experience, for reference, for people, for all of us,
Yeah.
does it feel like it's in your mind's eye? Does it feel like a dream? Does it feel more real than a dream? Are you seeing it with your eyes? How is it coming in?
You ask such good questions. It is I would say for people who are doing it, that it is, you go to the place where your imagination is, and it's there. It's the same place. It's just that when you're imagining, you are aware that the ideas are coming from you because you're following like a trail, like your mind is wandering, and you're aware that you're pulling on references of things you've seen. And like, when you're imagining something, but you go to that same exact place, and then it's the things that are coming in are not from you. And that's the difference, is you are aware, you're like, oh, I didn't, and you'll get stuff that had never occurred to you before, and it's dropping into that same space. So whatever you go to, like right now, if I tell you to visualize a red flower, so just imagine, if you close your eyes and you just imagine a red flower, and I'm not giving you too much detail about what that red flower is, you just see it in your mind's eye and imagine what kind of flower shows up for you. And then you just let that grow and develop. So how, is your flower, what stage of bloom is your flower in? What variety is your flower in? How long is the stem? Is it cut? Is it planted? What is it? Those are all details you made up, right? And if you can see it, and some people are not big visualizers, but maybe you can smell the scent of the flower, or maybe you can feel how you feel when you're around a flower. Maybe you get that feeling you get of being out in a garden. So however, because some people are clairsentient, they're going to be, or,
Right.
they'll feel it in different ways. But for me, clairvoyance was always strong for me. But you'll go to that place. So with that same place of visualizing. So now imagine that you're visualizing that flower, and then all of a sudden a giant semi truck drives through it. And that's what it feels like to channel. Is that you're up there having a nice time with your flower, and then here comes a semi. You're like, oh, wait, I didn't come up with that. Where did that come
Where did that come from? And that is what it can feel like sometimes, And from yeah. So I do want to talk to the angels, and how. So do you have a name for them, or do you just say my angels, or how do you refer to your team?
So they like us to refer to them as the angels. And the reason for that is that part of my journey has been the journey to oneness, which we're all going through. And so in the beginning, they did give me a name, a single name, but I know that there are many different, because I feel their energies differently. There's many different angelic identities that come through at different times, depending on what we're doing. The first name they gave me was Uriel. And I had to look it up because I had no background. I didn't know anything about angels, or as Archangel Uriel, which I think is like the Archangel of Wisdom or something like that. But
Mhm.
in any case, it was a long time ago that first name came. And then after that, they said, we're not going to give you names. And they wanted me to understand them as an essence, as something that is everywhere all at once, and that they can coalesce into any expression of all of the identities within them, that they can become Archangel Michael, they can become Archangel Gabriel, that's an energy that they have within them. And they can, just like you have many different sides to yourself, like that you have your happy side, you have your tender side, you have all these different parts of you. They can physicalize them into, it's almost like, okay, you call on Archangel Michael, zoop, he becomes, right? And then when he goes away, he becomes part of the all.
Mm,
Yeah.
love
So
that.
they prefer angels in general, just because it's that idea of getting us used to the concept of oneness.
I love that. And when you say that, it's so interesting. And I wonder if this is part of the reason why, is it seems so, when you say the oneness, and they come in, and they're part of it, or if you're part of it and they're part of you, and then it seems so accessible. It
It
seems,
is. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
seems so accessible to everybody,
It
so
is
that's.
incredibly accessible to everyone. Like I love it if people have a dialogue with their angels. And the thing is, the things a lot of people don't realize, you have to talk out loud to them. That they can't, people think they can read their thoughts and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of rules for angels about how they're allowed to deal with us, how, especially on the on the earth plane, that there's a lot of, for the earth angels, the angels that are specifically tied to earth, they have to follow all the rules to respect our free will and all those things. So you got to say it out loud. And so even though you might feel silly, but that's one of the great things about when everybody had to wear masks, because you could walk around talking to yourself all you wanted and nobody knew.
Or
But
sing to yourself, which is what I do all the time.
right, exactly. So, but you gotta say it out loud, and then
Yeah.
ask for signs. Like if you haven't had much of a dialogue with them yet, they are really good at like ask for, feathers and pennies and all those kind of things are beautiful signs. But you can even ask for like, I was just talking about this the other day that one time I was again having a hard time believing that it was I was feeling, unsupported and blah blah, life was hard. And I asked for I was like, I want a sign. I want to know that you guys are here for me. And so I was on the freeway and I was trying to think of something that would be really, really hard to find when I'm on a freeway. And I was thinking of like, okay, the color orange. You can't see, there's no orange cars. Very rarely do you see an orange car. I'm like, okay, orange. If this is real, show me the color orange. And before I could even get the word out of my mouth, I get to the bottom of an arm wrap and there's a single orange construction cone right there. And I was like, that was way too fast. That doesn't count. but but you got to say it out loud, and they may just surprise you. And it's not always like, be patient with it. Like it, sometimes you'll ask for it and they'll be like, well, you have to you have to leave your house. You got to go out in order to have this happen. You got to put yourself in a circumstance where we can deliver the thing you're looking for. So give them a little bit of time sometimes. But asking for signs can be a wonderful way to connect, to recognize, yeah, they not only do they hear you, but they're all around you and they're super excited to strengthen that connection with you.
I'm so glad you brought up that story, because no matter how it seems like, and it seems like, someone watching would think, well, Anne now she never has doubt because she just knows. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because as people, it's very easy to knock us back, isn't it? Like, even if we have like a difficult reading, or like we felt like there was a weird connection, or we weren't quite there, it really is easy to be like, am I doing the right thing? What should I be doing? And you kind of go back into that mode of, okay, I need some, some backup here. And so could you just assure everybody and me that when we hit those walls, they probably understand that that's a human condition, right? That still doubting or still being worried that we're going crazy or something. That's just a thing they know about us, right?
Oh, 100%. And, and that is, I mean, you're so right that is so common to everyone's experience, that if you've already been going down this path, like you have, channeling, doing all the things, that you might have a session with somebody, and you'll have a session with one person and you'll be like, I was on fire today. Like I knew it was all amazing, And then the next day you'll have a session, it's like literally walking through tar, and you'll be like, you think it's you, but I will tell you, it's not you. It is when you get used to working in someone's energy who is fluid, who is ready to move energy, it feels like flow. And you're like, oh, it's amazing, but it's them. It's not you. It's them. It's you being ready to facilitate, but their energy is moving beautifully. And then you'll have a session with somebody who is really in the thick of it. And you'll try to move their energy, and it'll just be like, I just cannot get, like, maybe their heart is closed, like locked, closed, and you cannot process anything through their heart. And you'll come away and you'll just be like, like, I remember one time that happened with me, is I did a session for a woman, and I came away and I'd be like, I stunk today. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that was a terrible session. And I ran into her like 3 years later, and she's like, that session changed my life.
Oh my gosh.
I have no idea, but it was like my expectations.
Right.
And I had to learn that very hard lesson of letting go, of not getting attached to the outcome, of letting it be, that trusting that they're going to get what they needed to get, even if you don't feel it. Like I had that lesson come in hard one time when I was channeling. I was doing a session for this one woman. And when I met her, she had this bizarre expression of energy that when she would be sitting still, her head would slowly rotate to the side like this every time. And then whenever she talked, she'd come back. But she had this, she couldn't control it. It'd be just slowly like this. And I was like, that is amazing. Like, what is going on with you? I was so fascinated. I'm like, we're going to heal that. And I got invested. I got invested in her outcome.
Uh-huh.
And so I did 3 sessions. She bought a package at the time I was working. I was doing one-on-one sessions. I sold a package of 3 to her. I did all 3 sessions, and we healed, we healed leagues of stuff. but nothing touched the crazy head movement. Like it didn't budge, like no change. And we got to the end of the 3, and I was like, okay, I had this attack. I recognized in myself that I was really disappointed that I hadn't been able
Oh,
to figure it
right.
out. And okay, wait a minute, that is me. Like she had an amazing, like she healed tons of stuff. Like I saw it, I felt it in my body. I know we moved tons of energy, and here I am coming away thinking, and it's her choice when she heals that, right? I was attached to her outcome. It's not my place. So I gave her all her money back. And I decided, I was like, okay, I gotta not, this is gonna be a one-time thing. I'm not doing this again, right? I gave her money back, and I was like, yeah, I should not have been invested in what happened. I just got to show up. I got to be a clear channel, as clear as I can be, and let it be what it's going to be. And if I am invested, if I have then I'm not doing my job. I'm not showing up in the best way for that person. So yeah, so it was a good lesson.
That I love that. And so as we move into, let me ask you one more question before we talk to
Yeah.
the angels. Let me ask you one more question. As you started to develop your gifts and move into this area of channeling and being much more serious about it, and moving it into your kind of, this is what you're going to do. This is going to be part of your whole life. How did you? How did it kind of manifest itself in your business life? Because you're kind of working in a secular field with, secular stuff going on. And how did people react to that? Or did you share it?
I
Yeah.
did not. The way I kind of bridged as the time I was going through it is that I started, at the time I was in one firm, a leadership development firm, and we were leaving to start another firm, and we needed to have our own, like courses to teach. We needed to have our own intellectual property. So, and I had all this background training in decision making. I had been trained as a negotiator back when I worked at Microsoft. So I had all this background in negotiation and decision making. So I thought I could come up with something. I'll come up with a course that's around that we can use when we're working with clients, because you got to have kind of different. Anyways, it's a whole thing. But anyways, so I started working on it, and at the time, like I'm starting to get connected. I'm starting to get information, and I start playing with all this, and it became what is now the 7 different soul types, which is all about how we create in the world. But at the time, I was working on this and developing it, working with these executives of these big companies, teaching it to their people. So I called it decision types. I didn't call it soul types. I called it decision types. And I didn't say we're talking about your soul and how you create. I said we talk about how you make decisions and how you're putting your energy out into the world. But it was an energy. It was like your powerful manhood in the world or whatever. They were all male. I was like the only woman in the entire building for like miles and miles at the time. It was all tech and med tech companies. So it was like me and all the guys. But yeah, so it was, I started out with that, with doing the and I wrote a book about it and stuff like that. And it was like it was awesome, an awesome phase in my journey. And it was funny, like the first draft of the book I wrote it in business speak, because that's what I'd always done. And I read it like, this is terrible, and I threw it away. And I went back and I started writing it from the perspective of talking to a friend. And it helped me to find my voice. It helped me to find, like, to be able to just be who I am and not feel like I have to be professional and I have to be this, vanilla version of who I am. So that was kind of the bridge, I would say, that helped me. And then I finally got to the place where it was like, okay, I can't really share even a fraction of who I am in this environment. So I quit.
Mm.
And that was when I did that year long, eat, pray, love journey. And then, and started working as a healer at the same time. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So, and again, a show of faith as
Yeah.
well. That
Yeah.
same kind of faith, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It has been every 2 years of my life has been, and it's been like a cycle that I just go through, where every 2 years, at the beginning, before I was on my path, it would be, I would build something. I used to build houses, and I would think, oh, this is the house. And I used to flip houses. So I'd like build it 2 years, sell it. And then, but every time I didn't want to move, I'd build a place and be like, okay, we're going to be here. And they were always remodels. I was trying to do it sustainably and using, anyways, that's a whole story. But after 2 years, something would happen and I would have to move, and I would have to leave everything behind and go on to the next thing. And it just was like conditioning me, practicing at this idea of creating and letting go, create, let go,
Mm.
over and over and over again.
Wow. And is that a great lesson? I mean, it's what we're all learning all the time, right? Letting things
Yeah,
go, letting things change. And
yeah,
that's the environment we're in. That's
yeah,
we're
yeah,
supposed to
so
be here.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So tell us what we're going to see as you move into the channeling
yeah.
mode. Explain to us what happens to you and what we're going to be seeing.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I don't usually see myself when I'm doing it, but I can tell you that also I'll ground myself.
Mhm.
And then I open up to connect. And for me, they connecting to them these days is very, very different from when I used to. In the past, it would be like this helmet came down and went over my head, and it would come down to about here, and then they were in. And these days, and then and that used to be very painful because it was that heaviness, that heavy weight. It felt like being at the bottom of a very deep swimming pool is what it felt like. It was very like that pressure. It felt like that. These
Right.
days, it's been years, and now I feel like a buzzing in my crown. I feel a little pressure here, but it's like, I mean, I'm aware, but it's not at all painful. Like it's very easy, and they come in super quick now. So I usually take a moment and try to acclimate. I look clairvoyantly to kind of like check out like who's coming, who's coming down today, and it's different identities, different expressions of who they are will come in, and I never know. I am always the last to know who comes in or what comes in. I should say who is the wrong word because, like I said, they are all one. It's oneness. But and then when they come in, I'm still around. I'm still here. I'm just imagine like you're totally in your right brain, like the space you might be if you've been painting for like 8 hours, where you're just in that drifty, dreamy, where I can, and they show me as they're speaking through, they show me images. So I'm seeing what they're talking about, but I have a really hard time holding the words. As a matter of fact, when I channel my Friday live messages that I share on my YouTube channel, I channel them and they make no sense to me. I will always think, oh wow, that one didn't make any sense. And then I have to wait till I have to put the punctuation in. I wait the next day and I read it and I'm like, but it takes me a while to be able to get back into, left brain, right brain working together because I'm in the right brain so much. So
Right.
yeah, so that's where I will be. And so I will usually come back and I will have a sense of what they talked about. I will know, I will have seen things. I'll remember some, if you talk and say, oh, they said this or that, then all of a sudden it comes back. I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember
Right.
they said that, but it's hard for me to follow the conversation.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you would, we would
Yeah.
love to talk to the angels. I'm really excited. I have my
Oh,
questions here. Hopefully, I picked good questions.
all right, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, give me just a moment. And it helps if
Okay.
you want to ground as well, then that helps
Yeah.
because the energy can be, as you know, it can be a lot.
Yep.
So, and if you want, I can guide you through my grounding exercise if that's helpful for people who are watching. If they want to be grounded, we can all ground together. Why not? You'll feel
Okay.
better.
Perfect.
So let's
Perfect.
do it. Okay, so go ahead and drop down from your tailbone a nice thick root and follow it down with your mind as it grows and extends, growing deeper and deeper into the earth. And follow it down where it's dark and cool, extending longer and longer. And follow it down all the way to the very, very center of the earth. And when it reaches that center point, feel the root sprout and anchor itself in. And as it does, notice that the root is pulling gently and becoming taut. And feel as that tautness moves all the way up the root. And now all the way up your spine, anchoring you securely to the earth. And now from the bottom of each foot, drop down another root, which goes down through the floor and down into the ground. And follow those roots down with your mind, just about 8 feet. And there, feel them spread wide in all directions like the roots of a tree, supporting you from side to side. All right, I'll go ahead and bring in the angels. beings, let go, let down your thoughts of forevermore, of tomorrow, of the next day, but now is calling you home to itself. But now is the essence of all that matters. But now you are holding in the environment of your thoughts and your practices, in your way of being and becoming, in the essence of each day as it is arriving. Set down your tomorrows. Think not of them. Think not of what will come, of what will stay and what will be lost. Think only of the now and what will prosper in the becoming of your own energy. Become concentrated upon the now in a way that culmination becomes possible and positive. Become focused on how within your own bodies you are holding the vibration of what will come. Be not aware of what that will be. Into your prosperity will come the form and fold of the many ways in which your energy has developed. But all of this is expressed as now, and in the becoming of the next now and the next now. Thus we say to inhabit the moment where you are in the fullness of your capacity and to draw forward into this expression of your very next breath, present instantiation that you have become. Do not draw forward into form where you have been. Do not linger in the plentiful self-reprimands that like to dwindle your awareness. Instead, draw forward only into form that which is present in your reality, in your experience, in that which is your truth. And let this form the now, let this become from yourself. And have faith that what you are has the capacity to hold all that you would endow toward your future. Have faith that what has become within you now expresses itself in fullness. Do not fear that your capacity has diminished because of what was before, of what has passed before now, of the patterns that rankle your experience, that make you feel yourself diminished, that tear upon your light. Instead, endow into form the truth of what you know now. Let your feelings experience themselves as beginning again in the newness of the expression of what is possible and what is positive. Let your expectations form only for the now. Let them be a completion, a momentary indulgence, each and every now, a momentary indulgence of what you favor about yourself. Let this become into reality. Let it form before you. And to breathe this in all your capacity and faith of your expression, let it become tangible into your reality. And think not of what will come. Simply be in the breath of your feeling and your truth. And it will be as you are, and it will be revealed. Do you have questions for us?
I do. Thank you so much for that beautiful message about the now.
You are
Uh,
welcome.
I have a question. I have some questions about a lot about the earth plane, a lot of the things we're experiencing right now. I think there's a lot of worry and fear. And I wanted to start with a question about greed. When it comes to people on the earth plane that have plenty of money, they have plenty of stuff, and yet there is a desire to have more and more and more and to accumulate. Is this a character trait that those particular individuals come in with, that is that kind of their challenge in their life? Or is it a chance we all take when we come into this plane that we'll be caught up in the materialistic, in the the desire for money, the desire for more. Could you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we are grateful for your question. We say that there are many answers that can perform for this line of reasoning, that you are correct, that there is within the form of every being a template for their existence. There is a agenda to be performed. There is a state of preference that will enable them to achieve what matters for their experience here. And there are some who come with a great desire to accumulate, to be recognized, to be revealed among their peers, to ascend in power, to have material wealth. Each of these, yes, unique qualities that sometimes intermix and are revealed within the same person. But we say that their capacity for growth and accumulation can be interpreted in many ways. It can be done for the benefit of humankind. It can be done in such a way that enables them to serve the many, that enables them to accumulate for the greater good. The essences and access points that accelerate the development of humankind rather than only themselves. They can have the opportunity to create structures and inhabitations that many can benefit from, or they can focus upon their own name and make themselves the highlight of their experience. And we say, you are in a time right now of much suffering and inequality because of the essence of the time that has come, the time and horizon that you are on. You are in an experience of evolution for humankind. You are at a state of expression where one is preparing to turn and face the light. And at this stage of your reality, the essence of your divine masculine energy has become extreme. It has gone into a state of its expression where separation is its most poignant. And there is purpose to this. There is reason for this. There is benefit to be claimed from all that has passed. And you may take this on and take this in with its blessings, but to leave behind the desire for personal gain at the expense of the all, this is what is coming. And in this next expression of humanity, those who are born into this template to accumulate, to grow, to create structure will yet be born again. These will still exist. However, what matters to them, the gain that shall be had, comes not to one, but to the many. Do you understand us?
Yes, I do. Thank you for that.
You are welcome.
Um, I have a question about the United States. The
Yes.
US we seem to be in a cycle of division right now. Is there such a thing as old energies returning? For example, old Civil War energies laying dormant and then being stirred up again to be resolved. And if so, what is our part as individuals in the United States and as a collective? How do we heal these hurts and divisions? What's the most effective thing we can do as individuals to help with this?
The United States is undergoing a transference of opportunities. It is changing itself. Its hibernation has long come to term, and it is now becoming renewed, and it shall go through an instantiation of separation, and it will no longer look the same. And you are experiencing the beginning rumblings of this transition, and it will come in a time and a space not far, not long from now. And you will feel the self to have known it all along, but yet to be surprising, for it has come to be known as something, a form of reality which one can count upon. And thus it will still inspire in the many a sense of themselves as questioning what they know, of questioning themselves and all how things have been. We say to answer to your question regarding dormant energies within the soul itself of this very country, we say, yes, indeed, there is the propensity to separate, to call itself against one half and another, to make itself in the diagnosis of its own meaning to be something that holds polarity and tries to make union, but the union cannot be lasting. There is undercurrent underneath. And this finally will gestate and transform itself and renew again into a new and more positive expression of the same. Do you understand us?
Yes, definitely. Um, I wonder, since it seems that we see that violence creates more violence. We've seen this over and over again. The governments who are still trying to solve problems through violence, are they young souls? Are they caught up in ego? Are they following a life plan for a greater purpose that we're not privy to? Or is there some other reason?
You have asked a question with many layers and much depth, which is not surprising. And we say that there is within this, yes, the diagnosis of many regimes which have been and are formed within a reality of darkness, where darkness has taken hold as an expression of living, where there is within them the juxtaposition of the darkness that is coming to terms with itself. And we say this form of life and living cannot last as you are moving into your newly forming condition, that it cannot transfer through. Thus, these realities, as they have been known, these truths of living, where there have been permitted to exist instantiations of power and leadership, which have been detrimental to the many, they can no longer find themselves succeeding. They can no longer find their power being understood. It is as if what has always worked no longer should. It can no longer support them. The world itself is shifting. The terms and understanding of what it is to be alive are consequentially changing. Thus, the power structures as they have stood and been understood will now transform as well. Do you understand us?
Yes, I do. I have one more question, and thank you so much for answering all of these questions.
You are welcome.
Can you explain from your perspective, your higher perspective, the idea or the concept of the new earth, or what we might call humanity's ascension?
Yes, we are delighted to speak upon this topic. Your knowledge has come far, you know. You have within yourself an understanding that betrays your question, and you ask us merely from form and practice, but this we appreciate and are grateful for. We say the knowledge you have is accurate, that there are coming for yourselves and experiences worth having, the sense of yourselves as becoming something closer to your soul, of having within yourself a greater attribution of your higher powers, of feeling yourself more aligned internally and understanding at the exhaustion of what has been held as the difficulty of the karmic construct and dialogue, which has felt to be eternal, but which has not been long in humanity's understanding. This comes to terms as completed, and you move into a state of grace within yourself and with one another. And in this completion, you find amongst yourself a greater dialogue of truth and understanding and trust. Yes, trust comes to the forefront. And among yourselves and within your heart, there is a dialogue of understanding where you connect to one another with more freedom, with a sense of understanding that comes from love, a connection you do not currently have, a sense of self as love for one another. And in this space of understanding, you come to terms with how another feels. And this then changes what it is to be human. To humanity, the form of you becomes understood through the canvas of the many. Do you understand us?
I do. Is there any other message you would like to leave us with?
We say for you, dear, we say for you, dear, to trust us and yourself, to feel in your heart the blessings accumulate daily, that there is now formed within your thoughts a sense of hardship and trouble. There's a sense of apprehension, and we wish to dialogue with the internal you, to sense where you are heavy, and to whisper to that wound, to speak to you that you are held in grace. Do not fear the coming times. Do not fear the change that surrounds yourself, to sense that you are rising to a tune of your own celebration, to know your time has come, and for the many who are joining you, to feel the light that burns so clear, that you will feel yourself enveloped in loving presence through all that comes, through changing times, to surround yourself in loving presence. We say thank you,
Thank
you,
you.
and goodbye.
Bye. So, Anne,
Hey,
oh, beautiful messages came through. So many,
um,
such such clarification. I think it really helped. I hope it helped everyone to hear some of those answers because they were just beautiful. And how do you feel when you come out of this experience? I've got chills from like head to toe right now. What, so what is it that you feel when you come out of this state? What is how are
like
you
right
feeling?
now,
What happens?
I
Yeah.
I just feel I'm a little woozy. Like I feel like, yeah, I feel woozy is the best way to describe it. Like I'm here, I'm aware, but it takes me a little while to kind of get all the way back in my body. I feel a little
Yep.
bit like, it's just a little woozy. I can talk and but I feel like, don't ask me to do a math problem right now.
Oh darn.
You know, I'm still in my right brain. I'm still in that sort of floaty space.
Okay.
I don't like channeling now. Like healing still fatigues me because I'm moving a lot of energy when I heal.
Mhm.
Channeling I can do, and it doesn't. It is less. Takes less energy overall nowadays. It used to be where channeling was also very exhausting, but these days I can do it and it doesn't wear me out, which is nice. I have to be in the right state of mind, right? It's not
Right.
good. It's not easy to go from like doing taxes to doing channeling, but yeah, but I come out, I feel it's fun. It's really fun to have that can, like, there's just such a loving presence about them when they are fun. Like it's, people don't think about it that way. Like they think of them as being like, oh, we have to have such reverence. And it's like, there's a very formal relationship, and they are not at all formal. Like they want to be your buddy. They want to sit, if they could sit down and have a beer with you, they would, like, I don't drink, but they would, they are like, in the same way I was saying that Yeshua is funny, like the angels, they can be very literal sometimes, like extremely literal. But they want us to not put them on a pedestal, because that creates distance between us and them. They want us to be like, they're just like a close, incredibly loving, patient friend, and so that's what it feels like. It feels like my buddies were just here.
And they have said to me anyway, as they were here and talking to us, there's such a security that I think we miss, or that we recognize as home. Because
Yeah.
it was almost like, can you just stay here and just like be here? It's like mom and dad or something like that. It's kind of like that real security, and I guess it's just that loving presence that is just really powerful.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I agree. It is amazing how, like, because they are all around us, but they are also inside of us, and so they have that ability to like one of the ways the angels like to work with people is like, even if somebody, say for example, somebody's really down, really out, the angels, they can't come in and just like magic fairy godmother and just change things, because everything has to come from us. This is our time to live. but they can bring in the whisper of hope. And that's what they do. So it's like if there's a moment when you're just lost in your thoughts, negative thoughts or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's almost like somebody opened a door and you have this momentary, strange, out of nowhere feeling that, oh my gosh, maybe there's another solution that I'm not seeing. It's just like this sudden whisper of hope. And that's the angels. That's how they help us. They come in and they just, you know what, let's just look over here. Just, oh, look at, there's a potential way you could go. Here's a little whisper of hope. And it's amazing. Like that, sometimes it's all it takes.
That's beautiful. Well, Anne, thank you so much for being here. And I want to ask you one question before we sign off. And I also want people to know where they can find you as well. But I wanted to ask you, what is a way that, and our community is so wonderful. They're all having a conversation amongst themselves about what they just witnessed. And they're kind of like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. So thank you everybody for being here and for being witness to this. And I want to ask you, what is a way that you can let people know that we can all raise our vibration? Or if you're feeling, especially if you're feeling down or depressed, or, what is a surefire way you can kind of raise your vibration and connect? If you can just give us a couple of suggestions. Yeah.
And here are some super practical ones that anybody can do. Is that there is an old saying that I've always loved, which is that the smile drives the happy. So if you are in a space where you are just really unhappy, like if you're in the deepest grief and say, for example, you don't want to feel that way, you can just literally put a fake smile on your face, just plaster it on there and hold it. And then notice how your body responds. That it's almost like a program that you run the smile program and the body responds and starts manufacturing the chemistry of being happy. So if you're trying to get from way down here to way up here, start by fake smiling and hold it as long as you can. And then as soon as you feel like you can muster it after you've been fake smiling for a few minutes, then bring in thoughts of gratitude. And that's going to seal the deal. Just start thinking about, what are you grateful for? Imagine like the things that in your life that have been the most impactful, that it's really affected you, and just try to nurture and cultivate those feelings. It's hard to jump right into that when you're way, way low. So start with a fake smile, then bring in the gratitude. And then before long, you'll notice that you are materially different, and then connect from that space, from the space of gratitude. And that will get you up high enough that you can connect reliably to a wonderful high source.
That's beautiful. That's so, and as Gina was saying, a couple of people said, Marvita said it too.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. That's what I do.
Yeah, that is it. That is great. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And so, Anne, where can people find you and all of the wonderful services you offer? I did put your website below, and I put your YouTube channel, but if there's anything else you'd want to let people know.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the best thing, YouTube is my name, Ann Tucker. Same thing, my website is my name, Ann Tucker, with an E. And and that's the best way to find me. So everything that, like I said, I don't do individual sessions. I have multiple types of group healing, they are powerful because they open up a portal between you and the angels. And so you are getting individual healing, but it's in a group context. And so I do that in a couple different ways, depending on what you're needing. So if anybody are looking, you can find me in both places, YouTube and my website.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Anne, so much for that. It's such a beautiful gift. And thank you, everybody, for coming. I will see you next Sunday. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.